Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner Classic Less Non-Classics. This is episode number 1817 and Doubleshot number 1711. Got two more trades. First one is the finale for writers' volume for the series. I say volume because they announced that the book is going to be restarted with the same writer. Yep. We have Daredevil Volume 7 Lockdown, collecting issues 31 to 36 of Daredevil Volume 6, making this the same exact length as Volume 3. Yep, the same exact length. You're thinking, really? Yep, it is. Excuse me. What goes in this book? Well, they finally wrap the whole thing of Daredevil being in prison. An arc that pretty much in a way lasted longer than it should have. Where he does finally take on he finally gets out of the prison to start a riot, and he was on a drug the whole time. He was getting out with no problem. And eventually, he's able to get released after basically serving a lighter sentence. He's able to get out no problem. And he gets a lift from not from Kristen. Oh no, he gets a lift from Elektra. Where they proceed to go down to a river to have sex. I am not kidding about that. That's what seriously they do. They basically strip down butt naked and go basically bathe in this water and have sex. Yep. And by the way, he has no problem with her being Elektra. Elektra has no problem being Daredevil. Nope, has no problem with it at all. So, basically, at the final step with the Kingpin, mostly you can kind of see this 6-part story arc as simply put the prelude to Devil's Reign. The crossover wrapped up just fairly recently. Actually wrapped up like 2 months ago. The Omega issue was released in like last month. Yep. Which is like the epilogue, and it's there for some stuff future. Yep. And also, they actually bring up in here the stuff with Butch, where basically Will Smith does confirm to him that Butch is in fact a son of his. Yes, a son, because he actually has another son. Rich Smith was there's an edit of the notes in here that he was brought back in giant-sized, king-sized Rams from number 1, which was the conclusion of that storyline. Yep. And also, he is back being the Rose again. Why in the world? Now here's the thing. Zdarsky himself had nothing to do with the resurrection. All that was all Nick Spencer doing that. He was undoing something that Bendis did, which is probably something that Bendis did during his time at Marvel. Probably one thing people will tend to forget he did do. Because some stuff he did in Daredevil was not as well publicized as other books that he worked on. Not as well publicized as we worked on Avengers or X-Men. Yeah, basically killing off Richard Fisk is... Now, Daredevil at that point wasn't really mentioned that much as a major title. Well, not until Mark Waid took over the book. It was respected. And at least it published for a long period of time before it was restarted number 1. So, also in the penultimate issue, Wilson Fisk proposes to Typhoid Mary, and she accepts. Well, right after she was going after Bullseye, and then the very next issue, Wilson Fisk and Typhoid Mary get married. Yep, which makes it the first time for Wilson Fisk he's married, because he got married last year, mind you. This is the first time he's been married since the death of his wife, Vanessa. Yeah. He's been a widower for a long time. Oh my gosh. Seems like a long time that basically... By the way, the guy's name is Byron Paris. Now, Will Smith's first wife is Vanessa. Yes, Vanessa Fisk, who he was married to for a long time. Yeah, she was actually killed off in Daredevil Volume 2, number 92. That's when they finally have Vanessa die. Now, Vanessa getting killed off, well, you're probably thinking, was that something that Bendis did? Well, killing off Richard Fisk, that was something he did do. But in the case of killing off Vanessa, no, I think Brubaker did that. Mm-hmm. Though she was briefly brought back in during Dan Slott's clone conspiracy storyline. Mm-hmm. Yep. She actually killed off back in issue 93. Yeah, that's one that she was found to be dead. So, if you don't believe somebody for killing off Vanessa Fisk, that's got to go to Ed Brubaker. Yeah, Brubaker did that, but yeah. So they get married, and of course, basically, it's I have a honeymoon at Fisk's cabin in the woods, and he decides to read a file that says Daredevil identity, and it's blank. And he's curious to himself, why is this blank? He probably did remember at some point that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, but he's forgotten it. That's a plot point to explore in Devil's Reign. For a conclusion to Chip Zdarsky's first volume for Daredevil, it's actually pretty good. Yes. My overall biggest problem with this run, and I'm going to get my final thoughts for it, is the fact that Daredevil took 25 issues to put on his damn costume. Yes. Like, because what happened in issue 1, because he accidentally killed somebody, he had to go to jail for that. He felt guilty over that. Over an accident. And another problem I have with the run, the lack of screen time for Foggy Nelson. And you're thinking, I'm complaining about Foggy Nelson. Why am I complaining about Foggy Nelson? Because he is Matt Murdock's best friend. He is the closest thing he has to family that's left alive. And basically, Chip Zdarsky barely used him in the run. Oh yeah, it was barely used. And for some reason, and this is something that I should point out though, apparently Zdarsky was doing something that similar what happened in Nick Spencer's run for Amazing Spider-Man by featuring Willis Fisk in 2 books at the same time. Oh yes, definitely. I'm not sure whose idea it was to do that, but yeah, he was featured in both books at the same time. Like, he was a recurring character in both Daredevil and in... he was also... Basically, Willis Fisk was practically almost everywhere for the past few years. Ever since he got elected after the events of Secret Empire. He got elected as mayor, and made mayor for about a few years. Not as long as, let's say, Wilson Fisk... No, what's this? J. Jonah Jameson, but definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, like I said, the only really big problem I have with this run is that Foggy Nelson, who was actually pretty well featured in shows, well, not first per se, but he was featured like a little bit later on. But he was not like absent for over 25 issues for no explained reason. Because here's the thing for you. Like, in the entire 36 issue run, guess how many issues that he actually physically appeared in? Like, at the start of this run, he first appeared in issue 2, and then was absent for the next few issues. Came in issue 7, and it was there for 11, 12, and it was there 15, 17, and then he sort of became a regular character for a little while. From 20 to 25, skipped a few issues, came back for 30, then did 36, and that was it. So out of 36 issues, he was only in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 issues, like a little over half the volume. And some of these issues, he's there for like 2 pages, and like, that's it? That's all you're going to do for Foggy Nelson? Now, this run has got a lot of flack online. Now, I know some people like this run. I don't like the entirety of this run per se, but it's a Daredevil run. It's a run that's not very well liked from what I heard of. And there was a line, issue 25, that a friend of mine basically caused them to drop this book because of this stupid line. Where basically a black prisoner is telling Daredevil to basically enact his white privilege. That line, saying that, caused him to drop the book. I, of course, still read it because I love Daredevil. And he basically told me that he had no problem with Alexa being Daredevil. This is not an issue. I personally have no problem. I think it's really good character on for her. But and I do agree with the opinion, he was in jail for too long. He was in jail in volume 2, but he was only in jail for like one story arc, not for an entire freaking year. And also, at least in volume 2, he managed to put on a damn costume for an entire 119 issue run. Here, he's like half the run, no costume. It's like right after issue 1, you're like, nope, I'm gonna throw it basically in the garbage for about 2 years before I finally put that thing on again. Yes, or at least put on this black thing over his face, act like what he did during the Man Without Fear miniseries. Those are a few major problems I have. Biggest things I gotta praise the book. The artwork is really good. Wilson Fisk in this book is actually well written. Yes, Wilson Fisk is probably by far more interesting to read than Matt Murdock. Also, there is something Matt Murdock did in this book that no one will want to talk about. He slept with a married woman. Yeah, he slept with a married woman. And he regrets it. Heck, even she regrets it too. Does anybody bring this up? Nope. We're bringing the white privilege line. Don't bring in the fact he slept with a married woman. Basically, she committed adultery against her own husband. Yeah. And plus, I think bringing Bullseye at this point in time toward the end of this book, good idea. I mean, you keep him out of the book for a good period of time. You bring him in, just as Devil's Reign, great. But yeah. Oh, by the way, I get the trade a 9 out of 10. Excuse me. Next up it is Morbius, Epic Collection Volume 2, The End of the Living Vampire. And this is like, there actually is technically one more trade for Morbius. And I'm going to get that one purely because it collects a one-shot that I've not talked about yet. This book contains Fear's 2731, which actually were the last issues of the series, but the last 5 issues. Then Marvel Premiere number 28, Marvel 2-1-15, Spectacular Spider-Man 6-8 and 38, Savage She-Hulk 9-12, and material from 9-11 and the annual for Vampire Tales and Marvel Premiere number 8. Now, the order they present these in is that they have Fear 27-28, they have 27-31, they have all that first. And then they have the Vampire Tale issues, all 3 of them. Then Marvel Premiere number 8. And you're probably thinking, okay, now what about Marvel Preview number 8? They have that. And then they have Marvel Premiere 28. They have that right after Marvel Preview. And then you have Marvel 2-1-15, Spectacular Spider-Man 6, 7, 8, 38, and 9-12. And that's it. That's all they got in here. Now, of course, the writers' issues are Doug Moak, or in the case of Doug Monk. That's a couple. I've heard a couple of people. Basically, I've heard 2 different people how to pronounce the guy's last name. Now, Jim Shooter told me the way to pronounce his name is Doug Moak. And Graham Nolan mentioned his name is pronounced Doug Mensch. So I'm a bit confused about that. Like, Doug, if you're listening, how the heck do you pronounce your last name? Because I've had 2 different guys basically tell me how to pronounce your last name. I told Graham Nolan this. He's even surprised the fact that Jim Shooter told me that his name is way. We also have Bill Manslow. Never met the guy, but awesome writer. David Anthony Croft, Archie Goodwin, and Rob Mencho. The artwork is done by several different artists on here. And illustrations done by Sonny Tredit, Patty Cacro, Vinci is here, Gray Morrow, and Sandy Pudik. The main artwork is done by Sal Bushma, Mike Vensberg, Frank Ribbons, Don Heck, George Evans, and Arvil Jones. 27 is done by Doug Moak. Love the interior artwork here. It's really good. Frank Ribbons does a great job. Who knew that he basically... Now, this is just more continuing him stuff with Marlene and these issues. That's mostly what the issues are. It's interesting to start with all the Adventures of Fear stuff first. They basically put in the last 5 issues first. Just all him being a monster. Really good stuff here when it comes to Michael Morbius. By the way, the final issue's cover remind me of the cover reminds me of the issue of 2 of Dracula. I mean, does that remind you of 2 of Dracula? Yeah, it kind of does. By the way, the final issue, Bill Mansell took over the writing at some point, so you have him and Doug Moak doing basically these issues. And then you have the Vampire Tale stuff. Basically, at first issue, let's see, first issue 9, which for him is just this page. Yeah, they throw this in here because he's on this preview page, and this other page here, and then they have Vampire Tales number 10, which is a story from here, and it's like 13 pages. Yeah, good black and white stuff. Good. It basically Morbius fits this stuff here. Who would have thunk that? But here's the weird thing, though. Do people talk about basically his time in Vampire Tales? No, people talk about his time in Spider-Man books. Then we have the annual, which is more like a reprint per se. The cover itself is fairly homaging a Christopher Lee as Dracula poster. And then we have Marv Preview Legion of Monsters. Yep. What this book is kind of a setup for... It's mostly just another Morbius stuff. But it's the last black and white stuff before we move on to Marvel Premiere, where... This issue is... Now, basically, we have these 4 people coming together to fight this one-shot character. By the way, 2 of the people actually would come back for another lineup from Legion of Monsters. The other 2 will not. Yep. And focus a little bit on... Focus on Ghost Rider the first couple pages. And then we focus on Morbius. He runs into Werewolf by Night, which they mentioned here. They met back in Giant Tales War number 4. And then he meets Swamp Thing the first time. Yes, this. I think this is the first time he's met Swamp Thing. Yes. So they team up to fight this guy in gold. Yep, it's all about dreams. It's an interesting issue per se. And then we have the Marvel 2-1 issue. We had the Thing and Morbius team up to take on the Living Laser, and it's done by Bill Manslow. It's a very interesting issue per se. Then simply put, basically, then right afterwards we have Morbius pop up in the pages of Peter Parker and stuff like that. This is done by Jerry Conway, the first issue. Yep, and he's only here, like, it's not the entire issue per se. It's like 1, 2, it's like 3 pages. And then here he is, Michael Morbius. He was basically thrown in another dimension at some point. And then he pops up for the next issue. And it's done by Archie Goodwin, next issue. Yeah, basically, Spider-Man run into Morgan. Morgan was a gangster mostly in this book in Marvel Team Up. Yeah, he appears in several books. And you can kind of say that early on, it's like Spider-Man was used just for wrapping up plot threads for Amazing Spider-Man. So, basically, you kind of think, oh, it's the final part, basically, wrap up the storyline here. Nope, the storyline basically takes a break for over 30 issues. By the way, who writes this issue per se? This one's done by Archie Goodwin again. This kind of wraps up this 3-part storyline per se. Though it does lead to stuff that we explored in later issues. The stuff with Flash team up with this guy, this Hogman, to take on this cult of sun worshippers. Yep. And then we have issue 38, which this kind of in a way wraps with the whole storyline of Morbius being a living vampire. And who does this issue? Bill Mantlo. Yep, Bill Mantlo's issue. This issue kind of like cures Morbius of his vampirism. And then, of course, we conclude with a 4-part storyline from Savage She-Hulk, which is done by Anthony McCraw. Mostly put just She-Hulk versus a guy called The Word. That's what this 4-parter is. She's there with a childhood friend, Ziggy, who that was actually her first boyfriend in the series, who's actually younger than she is, and smaller. And The Word basically is this guy who can influence you just by talking to them. Which I gotta say, he's very interesting to listen to. But, because of his influence. But it's interesting, though, despite the fact these 4 issues are in here, Morbius doesn't show up until halfway through these issues. He's not in 9 and 10. My only guess is Marv through these first 2 parts in here is because, well, and this is my personal guess, because of is because basically we're building toward the return of Michael Morbius, who does pop up in the very next issue. Yeah. It's like they just want to basically not... They want to throw the whole story. They throw Morbius here. A cured Morbius, mind you. This actually was his first appearance since Second 38. And yeah, the trade ends with this 2-part with him guest starring here. There was this time as when he was a vampire. And that's it. Yep, that's it for the Morbius trade. I give the second Epic Collection a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good. And you're probably thinking, okay, for Morbius. What was his next appearance right after this 2-parter? Right after this multi-parter wraps up, you might ask. Yeah, after this, he hops up for issue 18, which they don't throw in here for some reason. And then it's Fantastic Four 266. That's the next time it appears. Yeah, mostly put, it's almost like basically when he's cured. He just there as a guest star, help out here and there. Pops up for 2 straight Fantastic Four issues 266, 267. Oh, yeah, and of course 268. It's like he's mostly just a guest star character. He's no longer the living vampire. Nope. And you're probably thinking, when does he basically put on the outfit again? I have no idea. Then he pops up for Marvel TV5 number 4. Let's see about that. It's like basically him being a guest star, probably for quick cameos. That's probably basically what he was good for at this point in time. Mm-hmm. Until he popped up in Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme issue 10, which became a vampire again. Which was written by Roy Thomas. So my guess is Roy Thomas must not have liked the fact that Morbius was basically human, so he decided to turn back to vampire. And he's stuck there ever since. Eventually, later on, he did get a brief ongoing series. It lasted for 32 issues, then he sporadically appeared afterwards. Had a few more series, and that's been pretty much it for him. Mm-hmm. I mean, his most recent appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man during the Beyond story arc. Yep. But the Epic Collection was really good. I love it. It's interesting though they didn't throw any more appearances of him as a human. My guess because it'd be kind of boring, especially since he doesn't play a big part in the next several years for the character. He doesn't come full vampire again. I mean, until like this very issue. Mm-hmm. Yep, but not much to say about this. This is really good. Okay, so that's a particular view. Next one's going to be Skeleton in Our World. Okay, next video. Bye.